We should be live now. Good afternoon, everyone, or
Yeah.
good evening. Hope everyone's doing okay. Thanks for coming along to what is the final talk of the enhancement week. Obviously, tomorrow we've got the Game Jam and Hack happening. I hope everyone's looking forward to that. But in the meantime, we have Ollie Grooby, who's one of the technicians here in the school, who's going to be giving a talk to teach you how to be good at Git. So I'm going to pass straight over to Ollie and hope everyone enjoys the session.
Yes, Kieran. Yeah. So, hello, I'm Ollie. I'm pretty sure if you've been in university and you've been in one of the labs, you've bumped into me definitely. As Kieran said, I'm one of the technicians. Here I am. I actually studied here as an undergraduate. I came here in 2017 after graduating. Well, not graduating. Sorry, transferring from UEA. I'm interested more in networks, clouds, and other DevOpsy things. I'm not your normal computer scientist. I don't do too much code, but I still work with Git quite a lot because I help kind of orchestrate things, using Docker, Git, etc. I do often break things, and just as a bit of fun, I'm a Reinhardt main on Overwatch because I am a sad person who has no time. So this is really awkward. I forgot to take this slide out. I'm just wondering if anybody uses Git. If you are already using Git, please note that this is still just it's a talk into the basics of Git. It's only to get, well, no, you might get something from this. Who knows? This is a talk aimed at helping people get into Git for the first time. As you know, it's a super important thing to get into. And here's why: it's a source version control. It helps you keep track of changes in your work. You can just use GitHub, or you can use GitLab, or you might even be able to host a GitLab instance, in your own environment. But we're going to be kind of leaning more into GitHub because it's just what everybody kind of uses, really. And if you're an individual using it by yourself, you want all of that complicated stuff taken care of. It is the undisputed king of collaboration when you're coding. There's no more OneDrive. There's no sharing a OneDrive link to your group assignments or whatever and being like, okay, just make sure nobody breaks anything, please, and having stupid folders and trying to keep track of that. Git does it all for you. This is what it's made for. It is for collaboration, but it is so good to help you keep track of what you've done. It helps you roll back mistakes, as I've said just there. If you've gone wrong somewhere, you can go back in time with Git and you can be like, no, I need this commit back because that worked. And you can go and grab that, and that's fine. And you can use something called branches as well, which we'll actually be talking about later. But it is 100% necessary in this world. Code on a memory stick, that's fine, but if you lose the memory stick, you're stuffed. If you've got GitHub, everything's out in the cloud. You don't need to worry about it. It's all there. So there's a few common misconceptions with using Git as a whole, and it may have been the barrier for you getting into Git. Some people will say that using a GUI for Git is bad, and you just really need to ignore those. You need to be happy using Git, and you need to be comfortable using Git so that you can bring it into your workflow every day. But conversely, people might say, the command line interface, so it's complicated. And it really isn't. We're going to be talking about 7 to 8 commands today, and that is going to be 90% of what you need to use as an individual. And also, as a member of collaboration, they will be the only ones you need to use. And CLI allows you to be a little bit cheeky as well, and there's some interesting things you can do with a CLI that you might not be able to do with, like, for example, the GitHub desktop app. You could use something like Git Kraken, which would allow for that. But as I say, we're just going to be talking about the GitHub desktop app today. We're also going to be using a Git bash. It's hard to keep to good practice. It really isn't. If I can teach Git, anybody can teach Git. Even now, I sometimes have to go and Google something to be like, oh, I don't know what to do on Git. So you Google it quickly. There's no shame in that at all. As long as you're using it in a way that helps you, keep on track of your work, make sure that you can collaborate between devices and other people, it's fine if you just need to use Google sometimes. We'll use Stack Overflow nowadays for anything. God knows I did. I think 90% of my assignments came from Stack Overflow, to be brutally honest with you all. So please don't worry about thinking to yourself, I can't possibly remember everything. You probably can't, but using online resources such as Google or Stack Overflow just to make sure that you know what you're up to, that's fine. So TLDR, just use Git any way you want to. Just don't be disruptive to others, because there are some things that you can do with Git when you're working with other people that can be quite destructive to their own work. We're going to kind of cover that and kind of not. But also what I do want to just highlight to everybody right now is that the way I'm about to teach you Git is the way I've been taught Git through companies, other places I've worked. There are a lot of ways that you can implement Git in your workflow. All work, at the end of the day, I'm still here to just tell you that, just use Git in any way that's comfortable for you. Just don't start a fight. We don't have time for a fight. So what I was going to do, this was going to be a face-to-face session. I had to move it for some personal reasons onto an online thing, with everything I have at the moment. So what I was going to do was show you how to make a repo in Git. And I guess we can do that now, actually. So if I go over here, I just pop into GitHub really quickly. Annoyingly, I need to sign in. It signed me out for some reason. Kieran, is there a way you can just blank my screen for a second? Oh, I can just... I think he's already done it for me. Fantastic. 1 second. I can move that over here too. This is embarrassing, isn't it? Talk amongst yourselves. Nothing bad's happening, I swear. He's going to have a lovely holidays while I still try and find my authentication codes. Come on, blah blah blah. Use two-factor authentication on Git. You don't want anybody stealing your work. Okay, we're back. We're here now. That was a mistake. Cool. Thank you, Kieran. Right, so we're in GitHub now. Obviously, the first thing you're going to want to do when you're starting a project is you're going to need to start a repo for it. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can do it through using the desktop app. So if I launch GitHub desktop right here, blah, 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 we can actually start a new repository here. And it's really very simple. You can just be like, my new repo. Oh, I'm terrible at typing today. Give that a description if you want. You've got your local path there. And you can choose your Git Ignores and licenses here. I'm going to cover that in just a moment because there's a couple of important things that you need to know there, but we're just talking about making a Git repo to get going. I'm going to cancel that because we're going to do it online. So as you see there, I just clicked the plus button here, new repository, and you get this screen. It's a little bit more detailed than the GitHub desktop app for just some known reason. So I'm going to go for enhance. So just giving it a quick description there, you have the option here to make it either public or private. Now, if you're going to be working on an assignment or just some code that you want to keep to yourself, you're going to want to click private because you don't want people plagiarizing your work. With private, you can still actually collaborate with other people. That is going to be something we're not going to be talking about in this particular talk, but it might be one that if there's a good, if there's good turnout for this one, we can have a look at going into some of the more the advanced collaborative features of GitHub, etc. So I'm going to create this one private as you would do for like an assignment. And again, we have these options here. Add a README file. That's kind of good to add. It gives you something to pull, which I'll show you in a second. Can add a Git Ignore. I'm going to cover that. We'll leave it for now, and a license. Don't need to worry about a license unless you're going to be like, publishing the work. And there we go. We've created the repo. So let me just go back here. As you can see, that was super easy to actually get started on a project. You just got to quickly sort out your repo. It's like creating a folder in Google Drive, really. Oh, look, here's a GIF of me doing it anyway. A Git Ignore. You're going to probably wonder what that was. What it is a way of Git on your computer ignoring certain folders. You'll notice that if you use something like Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, anything else, NPM, it creates folders to hold like, preferences, modules, etc. We don't need Git to worry about that because if you're setting up your projects in like NPM, for example, you already have a requirements file which actually tells your computer what it needs to do anyway. So we can save a lot of space and a lot of time by simply ignoring that folder. And that's what the Git Ignore does. Now, it's basically just a file which you define certain file extensions, certain files, and certain folders. However, it's the internet. So many people have already made these for you. In fact, if you go onto GitHub, when you're creating that repo, if you tick create a Git Ignore, it actually already gives you a drop-down menu on what language you're using or what editor you're using. So you don't have to put any work into it at all. You just click what you're using and then go. And obviously you can combine multiple to make a Git Ignore, which is ignoring everything that you have on there. So if you're using, for example, you've got Visual Studio Code, you've got NPM, etc. Combine those two Git Ignores into one Git Ignore file, and it will just ignore all of those folders that you don't need to. It saves you time, it saves bandwidth, everything. You just have to do npm build whatever, and everything's good to go on that other computer that you're working on. So we've made this repo online, but how do we get it onto our computer? Well, it's actually really, really simple. The GitHub desktop app will just come up, once you log in, it'll come up with a list of repos you have online on Git. With the GitHub CLI, there's a few things you need to do. You will need to log into it, but it will hold your hand through all that anyway, so you don't need to worry about that. And just type in the address which you can get from the repo itself. So yeah, there's a GIF of me doing it here, but I may as well just do it, live for you all. So I just minimize this so you've got a little less distraction going on. Cool. So what we need to do is get this, we need to clone this repository. So funnily enough, I click on that, and all of a sudden, I've got a list of all of my repositories that I have remotely available to me. So what did we call it? I think it was Enhancement Week. Ah, there we go. It's there, ready to go. So just click it, press clone, and just like that, it's available remotely. You can open it in Explorer. You can make all of your files. One over here. There we go. But you can make all of your files. You can do everything that you need to, starting now. But what if we want to do that in terminal? What if you want to give terminal a bash? Well, let's have a look, shall we? So I'm going to go over to my repos folder, which is somewhere. There it is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to use the command git clone. Git clone does what we just did here. But what you need to do is you need to know the address of where you're cloning from. It's a really easy way of doing that. You go onto your repo on GitHub, go on code, copy this address, and just paste it in here. Just like that, the folder's there. Enhancement week. And it's exactly the same contents as the other one that we just did through the GUI. You can see we've got the README there, and we've got the README here. So that's both ways of getting a repository online cloned onto your local PC. It's really easy to do. The CLI is, it's the more involved way around of doing things, but it's certainly a really good skill to know, because there might be some, companies out there that require you to use CLI. They might not, but they might. You never know. So we're going to start working. We're going to start making files. We're going to start making changes. How do we deal with that? Well, it's actually really simple. I'm going to just back out of here again. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. I didn't really think of this, but hey ho. So again, if I show this folder in Explorer, and if I create, do you know what? I'm just going to create a text file. I'm going to use trusty old Notepad to put some content in there. Boom. So, imagine that's me, starting a project, that's a Python file, whatever. So we need Git to start tracking it. So if you're using the GitHub desktop app, it's actually already tracking it for you, unlike using it in command line here. This is running all the time. This is only running when you tell it to. So what do we need to do? If we're using the GUI as we are here, we can actually see it's already creating all the commit names for us. Well, we've actually created that file, and that's actually probably a really good name to call it. And we can add a description if we want to. So commit that to main. All of a sudden, it's ready to go. We'll talk about push in a minute, but we don't need to now. But what are we going to do if we are, using the command line instead? If I just go onto my repos file. It's a better way, but hey. if I make another file, and this will be really interesting actually, because once we sync both of these back up with the repository, we're going to start seeing how the collaboration really works. So I'm going to call this, and just play. Sure, I could have been putting some code in here, but really crap at that, so we don't need to worry too much. What do we do now? Well, there's a couple of ways of getting things sorted. You'll see this in the slides, and I'll talk over that in just a second. We need to add the file into the Git repo so that it's tracking it, right? It's called basing. So it's called staging, not basing. See, not even I can get everything right 100% of the time. It's just a case of getting you to use Git. What we need to do is that we need to add all the files that we have. So there's two ways of doing this. If you use the asterisk, like I would there, for example, the asterisk adds all of the files here, but note that it doesn't add subdirectories within the directory. So if you've got a folder in here, like your CSS, for example, and if you use git add start, that won't add it. It will only add the files that are in the directory it's working. It doesn't recursively work for other subdirectories. We can change that by using full stop instead. It's just, I've got into the habit of always using git add full stop. It's so easy to type, and usually when I'm adding things to the repo, I don't need to be worrying about, oh, I don't want to add this, I don't want to add that. I just go ahead and add those files because I'm just adding it when I need to. So all of a sudden, you'll notice that much like that, this is now aware of that file and it's keeping an eye on it, much like it's doing here. So I want to commit this like I did here. You can use git commit -m. -m, I believe, stands for message. I don't actually know. It's just keeping it simple. And I'm going to put in here, added a file. Use a quotation mark so it knows where the actual message is. If I press enter, boom, sorted. It's got that file committed and ready to push. What is pushing then? Well, if I go back onto my slides here, so it's a bit of a mess, really, isn't it? Where are you? Yeah. It's over here. Professionalism. You don't have to push the moment you commit something. You can have lots of commits available to you locally without them being pushed. You might not need to push until like the end of the day, for example. Sometimes you might want to push immediately after committing it. It's up to you. And it is super, super simple. With the app, it's just literally clicking the button and it takes care of it for you. And with the command line, it is just a case of typing git push, and it pushes everything that you have committed onto your remote. If, for example, we use a more complex way of starting a repo, you might have to do a little bit of configuration. You'll have to add the remote into the repository on your local machine. So there's a few things that you need to cover there, but as I say, because we've already cloned this from a repo we made online, we don't need to worry about it. So let's show you on here. Oh, look. I just clicked push and it's there. It's ready to go. If I refresh this, there it is. Super simple. Now, because I've named this a different thing and it's got some different content in it as well, we can see how, for example, imagine that I'm using CLI and this is actually a different user. I'll do git push here as well. That is very funny. I needed to git pull first because whatever is on the remote is ahead of what I have locally, which is, it's an element we're going to have to deal with at some point later. I'll show you then. So I can now finally git push. And we have both files there. So as you can see, that's a really good way of having, two people work on the same file at the same time. Or no, not on the same file at the same time, the same project at the same time. If you're working on the same file at the same time, there's a few little steps, but it's not too hard. So if I go back onto the slides here, just to kind of reorient myself. Say, using the GUI makes things stupidly simple for you to get a hold of, get a grip of. You just press a button and it's visual, it's nice, you can see what's happening. With the CLI, it's pretty fast, but you're going to have to remember some commands. But git push isn't a hard one to remember. nor is git pull, which we'll use in a second. That's kind of the opposite. And here it is. Pulling is the opposite of pushing. Rather than sending to the remote, we're taking from the remote. And you do that whenever, for example, you've made some changes to your code on a different machine, or if you've made some changes to, if you've had somebody else make some changes or whatever. It really is it's a simple concept. There's not much to cover. Again, it's just a case of clicking this fetch origin. That kind of lets the GitHub app know where it's at, and then pulling. And then locally, we have both files available there, as you can see. And I've already kind of done it here. I had to do this git pull here. Because this was ahead, so the remote was ahead, I had to pull it to bring everything back in line. It's often quite self-explanatory if there's ever an issue. Just sometimes it'll say, hey, use this, it might work. And as you see, I did that, and it worked. Yeah. Where am I at? There we are. Another big feature of Git, and this is going to be a slightly more complicated one to kind of cover, is branching. Branching is one of the headline features of Git. It allows for lots of different changes to lots of different bits of your code happen all at once away from your production code, and that's really super important. You don't want to be pushing beta features straight onto your main branch, because all of a sudden, you could end up just absolutely destroying your product. There's a few ways we can use branches. We can, for example, as I said, we can have a main branch, we can have a beta branch, and we can create issues from the beta branch within GitHub. Now, again, this is going to be something I won't quite cover using issues and stuff in Git. That's a big collaborative feature, and I will work on doing something like that for the next enhancement week if people are interested in it. Or we can make branches directly off of main. If this is, for example, one of your assignments, you can just have your main branch and then be like, oh, I need to do this. So you'll create a branch off of that, do your work on that branch, and then merge it back in, which is what I'll show you how to do now. So let's create a branch. Again, the GUI is going to make it's going to make it stupidly easy to make a branch. All I have to do is click on the branches here, click new branch, say branch 2. Boom. We've made the branch, and all we need to do is publish it to GitHub. GitHub needs to know that branch exists, and just like that, it's already up there on GitHub. If I refresh this page here, there it is. It all happens very quickly. So in here, so if I do git pull here, and see that all of a sudden this is now aware of that branch too. Like I said earlier, this app is going to keep track of everything in real time, because that's how it works. It works as a system service almost. Here, you're going to have to ask it to do stuff, but git pull is usually the one thing you need to do, to just whatever's on your remote, bring it down, use git pull. So switching between branches in the GUI, again, is super simple. You're just going to click which ones you want. I'm on branch 2, I'm on main, I'm on branch 2. Very simple. On here, there is a command that we need to do, and it's a little bit, it is not what you think it would be. It's not git branch or anything like that. It's actually git checkout, because you're checking out that branch. And you would do git checkout branch 2. And because of how I've set my terminal up, and I recommend you have a look at something called, I think it's Oh My Posh I have here. You can have lots of themes that help you keep on top of Git and stuff. You can see here that I'm actually working on this branch now. If I go back to main, you can see it's changed in there. So I've made a branch on the GUI here, but how am I going to make a branch on here? Well, it's actually quite simple. I'm going to use git checkout, but we're going to use -b. B just means we're actually going to create this branch, and we can give it a name such as the really innovative name of branch 3. It's made the branch and it's switched to it. We need to get this branch from the CLI onto the remote, because if I refresh this, you're going to notice that it isn't actually there yet. That's because we need to push it. So if I just do git push, you're going to notice we're going to have a little bit of an issue. The what's the best way of putting this? Basically, this doesn't actually know where to put this branch. Essentially, that's what this boils down to. So all you really need to do it's already given you the command, so you don't need to worry about it. Copy it, paste it, press enter, boom, done. And if I refresh here, branch 2, branch 3. It's super simple. A lot of the time nowadays, if the Git command line has any kind of issue, it will always suggest a command that you can use to help figure out where you're going wrong. And it is usually you're going to be missing the upstream. Essentially, it's going to not know where it needs to put this branch. It's not going to know where to put this repo, and it's super simple to fix. What I didn't see when I made the commit on here, because I'm already logged on to Git and I've already done the configs, is it's going to ask you on your first commit, who are you? It doesn't know who you are. So it'll actually already give you the commands that you can use to add your username and your email address. That's the 2 things you need for a commit, because that allows for something called git blame. And that, I don't think it'll work on here because there is no real commits. No, it didn't. I've actually also just missed something. But you can add the commit name in there and it will tell you who was responsible for that. So if something's broken, it git blame followed by the commit tag. I might be slightly wrong there. We'll find out and I'll let you all know. That will tell you who did that. So you can point a finger at somebody and be like, why did you do this? So that's why it asks for a username and an email address. Sorry, the tangent there anyway. So what we can do now is I'm going to actually start from here again. I'm going to make, is this the right one? No, that's the CL out. I'm going to move you over there. No, that's the GUI, sorry. Oh my God, I can't use a computer. It's amazing. What we're going to do now is that we're on a new branch. We're going to start messing around with some things. So I'm going to start messing around with this another file here. I'm going to save it. That won't have impacted the main, obviously. I haven't pushed it. I don't know why I'm trying to show you from there. However, that change is kept away from your main working code, which is really, really important. Again, you don't want to be pushing broken code directly into your main branch because you can just hit all sorts of fires that way. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to do git status because I've kind of lost myself. There we go, modified. Because, interestingly, Git is now already aware and tracking that file, we can use a slightly different command to do the adding and committing forwards. We can actually use git commit -am. AM means it was giving you a message, but the A actually means that it's going to be automatically adding any file that Git's aware of. And here it is. I'm going to say, I'm going to do that. And if I do git status again, it's ready to commit that. It's ready to push that, sorry, over onto the remote, onto this branch here, onto branch 3. So I'm just going to push that real quick. There we go. Already, this has figured out something's changed. So if I go to another file.txt here, we can see there's this change there. If I go over to main, this file's clean. We don't need to worry about it. You know, I could have broken that bit of code over there, but over on your main, everything's fine. And that's really, really important. Now, if I do somewhat similar again in this one, so I'm just going to show and explore because I'm just losing all of my tabs at this point now. We'll go hello there. Well, actually, this is on, yeah, no, we'll just do it like this way. So I do that, made a change here. Suddenly, it's picked that up, like automatically. We don't have to worry about doing the adding thing there. So this has already given us a commit name that we could potentially use, update hello there.txt, but it's not really descriptive. What you want to be making these commit messages is something that's descriptive of what you've done. So I could say broke this file. But for example, if you're if you're adding a new requirement or something, it'd be a good idea to make your commit name updated or added module, because it just helps anybody who's looking at that at your repo what you've done, and it helps you figure out what you've done in the past as well. Because I've had plenty of commit names where I've just really not been descriptive and gone, why have I done that to myself? Don't do that to yourself. So I'm going to commit that and I'm going to push it, and then it's hello there. Oh, it's the wrong one there. hello there we go. So hello there has got that extra bit of text in the bottom there, but if I go over to branch 3, it doesn't. Using branches is a really good way of just kind of containing work that you're all doing away from each other so that you're not stepping on each other's toes. So that's why we use it. So that's all well and good. We've got all of that code there, whatever. We now need to, we need to bring that onto the remote. We need to bring that onto the same branch. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. So how do we do that? Well, it's really simple again in the GUI to do this. So if I switch over to main, that's where we want all of the changes to be. So switch over to the branch where you want to have all of your changes. And then quickly just choose a branch to merge into main. Oh, I didn't actually fetch the origin. Hang on 1 second. There we are. All the branches are appearing now. If I click that, and I want to merge whatever is in branch 2 into this, all I need to do is click that, create a merge commit, and push. Super simple. That's all of a sudden, if I go into main, that's what the hello there this at the moment says because it's not refreshed. If I do that, boom, that's in there. But you'll notice that this file hasn't changed. That's because we've only done one branch. We've only merged one branch into main. How do I do that on the command line? Kind of simple if you remember the commands. We're going to do git checkout main, because that's what I want. Git merge. And the way we use merge is we go where we want it to merge to and what we want to merge from. So I want to merge to main, and I want to merge from branch. God, I really can't type today, can I? Branch 3. Done. Git push to push those changes up. I forgot to do the git pop one. You watch this. Oh no, I was wondering if I'd get a merge conflict. We'll have to deal with those at some point. Now I'm going to do git push. Boom. Everything's all on the same branch now. If we have a look here, all of the changes are on main. Just being weird. But yeah, you can see that all of the changes are on main. Yeah. So that's how we use branches to effectively work with, multiple different people, or if you want to keep changes away. And you should be, as I keep saying, you need to make sure that you're making sure that main is where all of your good, clean code is, and then you mess around with you mess around with other branches, and you can make branches off of other branches. I could make a branch 4 that comes off of branch 3, and then merge that back into branch 3, and then eventually merge that back into main. So it's not an advanced concept, but it is something I'll talk about in a different session, I think, because that's a good way that you can use issues in GitHub. You can have your main, you can have your beta, and then you can have multiple branches off of your beta. So you're adding one feature at a time into beta. So beta isn't completely broken, which is a great idea. It's the best way you should do it, really. It's kind of a waterfall way of doing it. I guess it's also agile. I don't know. But you're making the changes away from each branch, and then you're merging them back in sequentially. Now, sometimes when you are merging, if you've made some changes to a file that it doesn't quite understand how to deal with, you're going to get something called a merge conflict. And that's when Git kind of doesn't understand how it needs to put all of your work together. Usually at that point, you can use Visual Studio Code actually nowadays to open up this merge conflict and actually kind of deal with it manually yourself. It gives you both files as a diff, and you just work out which bits you need to merge over, and then submit that as a commit and just deal with it that way. It's a bit complicated, and again, I will show you it at another time, I think, because I need to figure out a good situation in which that might happen and show you the best, most stress-free way of dealing with it, because it is a stressful time. So look, we've kind of covered everything actually really quickly there. I didn't mean to go so fast. Let's have a look through here. Merge and turn, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, a quick little wrap up. I mean, I didn't realize I'd be going through it so quickly. It has been a very basic look into using Git. There's a lot that you can do with Git in terms of collaboration, even just for your individual usage. There's project boards which help you kind of keep like a Trello within the Git repo itself. There's the issues, as I've said, collaboration. There's different ways you can set up all of your projects and stuff. So there's a lot you can do with Git. It's so powerful, but you don't necessarily need to use it all at the same time. You just for the everyday person, what I've shown you today is a great way of getting into it and moving away from using OneDrive or just keeping it on the same machine or using a memory stick. It's a great way of moving away from all of that and using Git in an effective way, which is really simple to remember. I really hope that you're comfortable with getting into the idea of using Git. I mean, I was able to show quite a few things, and some of them slightly advanced, in not a very long amount of time at all. I actually thought it would take a lot longer than this, but hey ho. Yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed the look into Git. Kieran, is there any questions or anything that need to be looked at?
No, I don't think so. I think you're good to wrap it up. Say goodbye.
Cool. Well, let's say thank you for listening. I know it was a little quick. I think it was a bit of an information burst for you. If you're on the Computer Science Society, come grab me. I'm Gruben down there. I've shown you my GitHub. No, not my GitHub. Oh, I can't speak today. I've shown you my Discord down there. You can always shoot me an email, or you can grab me on Teams. I'm always happy to help you try and deal with anything Git related that you need to get sorted. I think that will be all for me. So thank you for listening. And if you do need any help, just come grab me and I'll come and help you. Cheers.